Good morning, friends. Today we are going to talk on the topic access to quality education. Friends, there is no denying the fact that access to quality education in India is a big challenge. Yes, in India, access to quality education, particularly for those living in remote rural areas, remains a challenge even today. Most of the schools in rural remote areas still are having inadequate infrastructure, educational facilities. India is the country having highest number of dropouts in rural sector. Particularly according to UNESCO, India has one of the highest rates of out of school children, with almost 18 million children out of school. This is compounded by insufficient infrastructure, a shortage of well trained teachers, and inadequate resources to support education. India is not the only country which is having the highest number of dropouts from schools. There are other countries where there is still a big disparity between access to quality education and among the different classes such as affluent classes and unprivileged classes. USC is also having the same disparity problem, that affluent society in United States of America have the access to quality education, whereas the unprivileged sectors, unprivileged classes cannot have the access to quality education. So far as India is concerned, access to quality education still remains a challenge for many of the rural remote areas. The fact is that India is not spending as much funding on educational development of the children as the other countries does. For instance, Finland is a country which spends in its budget the highest amount of budget is being allocated for development of education in Finland and Brazil. The highest funding is being given to training and resource development of the teachers and the development of the infrastructures in schools and colleges. Friends, there is no denying the fact that India is still having the challenge of access to quality education. The fact is that even in semi-urban areas, the schools now, the government schools are not having the infrastructure which is adequate for the better quality education or quality education in India. In semi-urban areas, the condition of the government school is quite pitiable, and the infrastructure is still inadequate to support the quality education. In urban areas, so far as the public schools are concerned, the infrastructure is quite satisfactory, and the training facilities for the teachers and resource persons is quite, sufficient. But for the semi-urban areas and the rural remote areas, the teachers are not being given the proper training, and the infrastructure is not adequate to support the quality education. So in India, the biggest challenge is to have access to quality education. Many, districts in our country are not having sufficient number of schools. Even if there are schools, there is no, proper training being given to the teachers as to update their knowledge and skill in teaching learning scenario. In rural remote areas, the highly qualified teachers do not want to work. They just want to shift to cities. They want to stay in cities and have better quality of life. Because of these, feeling and attitude also, the rural schools are always neglected. So the country must look into making the government schools equipped with all the essential infrastructure and facilities for quality education. And that is possible only when the government allocates the highest fund to education in the budget. Because we see that very minimal percentage of budget is being allocated for the development of education in India. And this is the reason why, even after 75 or 80 years of independence, India has not been in the list of the highest quality education in the world. So far as the Finland and Brazil is concerned, they are being ranked as one of the highest countries having the best infrastructure for schooling and colleges. So far as the college education is concerned, some of the autonomous colleges, private colleges are having better infrastructure. They have well-trained staff members, resource person, and mentors. Whereas in government colleges, still the number of teachers is not adequate. The number of lecturers and professors is not adequate, and the time and again the need is to update their knowledge and skill, because the scenario in education is changing day by day, and the digital education has come into the way of providing better education. So the need is to equip our teachers and mentors with the latest devices, latest training, latest life skills, to teach the children in a better way. And the access to quality education is possible only when the government schools are being made well equipped with all the facilities and all the materials and all the infrastructure. And the most important, the teachers training, regular teachers training program must be given by NCRT or CBSE to equip the teachers with the high skill learning teaching scenario, because the change in learning teaching scenario is also a challenge, and the teachers have to update their knowledge and skill and make them conducive for teaching learning scenario. And so I believe that access to quality education is still a challenge for a country like India, where majority of the schools fall in the rural remote areas, where the infrastructure is not adequate, and the training facilities for the teachers and the mentors is not sufficient and not updated. That is what I wanted to emphasize upon. Thank you. Have a nice morning.